when you're waiting in line at, say, the post office or some place like that, but I've noticed this myself at the post office. You're waiting in line. You're busy. Maybe it's Christmas time, and you're waiting in line to get to the front to mail a package, and perhaps the line is long. Or maybe you're in a convenience store and you just stopped in to get some milk on the way home, and you're waiting in line, and there's a couple people ahead of you, and it's taking forever. And the guy at the front of the line, he goes to buy his stuff, and then as he's buying, and maybe he orders a pack of cigarettes, and the clerk has to go and get the cigarettes, and then he comes back, and then he decides to buy a couple of lottery tickets, and so she's asking him which ones he wants, and you're picking these ones and everything. If you're noticing that situation, because I'm pretty sure all of us have been in that situation where you're in a bit of a rush or whatever, and that person at the front of the line is taking way too long. And you look at what they're doing and you can't help but think, you are wasting my time. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? And you can get frustrated because they're wasting time, and they're just, like, speed it up, get through it already. And it's in the old days, it used to be the little old lady who searched through her purse to get the exact number of pennies, and we used to all be like, because it was taking our time. And then, strangely enough, when we finally get to the counter and it's our turn, and we have to interact with the teller, and we're starting to go through it, and we say this and we do that, and we're getting this ready, and we're doing whatever it is we're doing, and if someone behind us in line huffs or puffs, makes any kind of a sign that they're being impatient, we will automatically think, just slow down. You wait your turn. I'm doing my thing right now. Just wait your turn. Do you see where I'm going with this? We have a tendency to judge everyone else pretty badly and to excuse ourselves pretty easily. We have a tendency to look at someone else's situation and assume that they're just being irresponsible, and then look at our situation and say, but I have good reasons for what I'm doing. And it's a common trait. We all suffer from it, and we all have to be careful of it, because we do that just the same as we will judge the person at the teller and then excuse ourselves for taking time at the teller and judge the person who's impatient in line. We will tend to do that in a lot of things in life. In the book of Proverbs in the Bible, in the Old Testament, the book of wisdom, Proverbs chapter 18, verse 17, it says, "The first to plead his case seems right, until another comes and examines him." The implication being, he doesn't seem quite as right after he's been cross-examined. And it's a true thing in life that quite often when we address some situation or some thought, some idea, or some it may be as lofty as trying to sort out the debate around evolution or the debate around the creation of the universe, or it can be as simple as being in line and trying to assess another person's character or something like that. Whenever we find ourselves in those situations where we're trying to sort out what seems right, we have this tendency to only think it out a little bit, to jump to a conclusion and then make that our decision. And then, boy, is it ever hard to get out of that position. We have biases. We have things from our perspective that affect the way we think on things, but we don't think we do. And so we look at that situation and we think we're right, or we have incomplete information. And this is very common in our current era, where it's so hard to get good information. We get one side of a story, or we get one angle on an event, and that will be presented very adamantly by a group of people. And even the media today is bad at this, presenting things from a very definite angle. And we'll hear that angle and it seems right, because, whoa, my goodness, all the things they're saying. And we need to slow down and look at the other angle, the other side. But we very rarely do. Or whatever we hear first, as this proverb said, basically whatever we hear first tends to sound right. And then on further examination, maybe it's not so right. And so we need to slow ourselves down, and we need to think. We need to learn how to be people who think well. Every human being on the planet is able of thinking, but we don't all think well. We sometimes fall into these traps, and we don't work at being careful about them. It is a lot of work. It's hard because it's so much easier just to simply take everything as it's thrown at you and just assume it's right, and then go about your life and make your decisions from instinct and from emotion and just go with it. But it gets us in trouble so often. It gets us in trouble not only out in the world, but in our relationships with people. When you just hear a piece of something and then you jump to a conclusion and you settle yourself there, and then suddenly your relationship with someone in your life and your family or your workplace or something, it's all out of sorts now because we didn't take the time to think well. Instead, we jumped and ran to a conclusion instead of thinking. The Bible encourages us in the book of Proverbs and in other places, but it encourages so much to think clearly about things, to be critical thinkers who don't just assume, but rather examine well and take the time to examine. This is why the Bible says that we should be slow to anger, slow to speak, and quick to listen. That we should live a life that's built more around gathering information than it is about just simply making judgments, being angry and speaking about it. No, slow down, listen, and then listen again. Be quick to listen. Think a lot, and then work it out and think critically. And then there will be times when anger may be necessary, but we should be very slow to anger because we're prone to make mistakes. So that's the encouragement for today. I want you just to think about that as a godly person. We can ask God, as it says in James, God, give me wisdom. Teach me to be a good thinker, and so that I don't just jump at the first piece of information I hear, and that I make allowance for hearing the other side of the story. Something for us to think about today. God bless.